It is Middays with Mark, Congressman Mark Pocan, taking your calls today. And let's see here, Robert in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Robert, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, I want to talk about the multi-employer pension crisis. I'm with Central States, and I guess Central States and United Mine Workers are the ones that are about to go bankrupt by 2025. And there's supposed to be a bipartisan committee about, trying to deal with this crisis, and it's supposed to be handled by November. And I was just wondering if you knew what was going to happen with that, and if they're going to come up with some kind of solution. They said there was going to be a bailout. I thought it was $15 billion would take, which was actually a drop in a bucket compared to a lot of other bailouts. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Robert, so I don't know if I have great news for you in that there is a bipartisan bicameral commission put together to look specifically at that issue of the Central States Fund and the multi-employer pension issue. That, and perhaps they may go a little broader. First meeting was a dismal failure. They talked at each other, and Republicans don't really want to address this in the way I think that you would be very happy with. So they have met a couple times since then, but the reality is there's not a lot of time between now and November to actually have that get done. There's good people on the Democratic side on that committee, some good friends of mine from our caucus who are working on the issue, but we have not seen what necessarily will give a result, especially a result, I think, of a bailout. I don't think will happen, but we also realize if we do nothing, a lot of people's lives are going to be very negatively affected. So this may be one that takes changing the majority to actually ensure that we can get this resolved.
Joe in Reno, Nevada, you're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Yeah, hi. It's good to get into you, Tom. I have a way to overturn the House from Republican to Democrat. All you have to do is get this saying out. If you'd like to lower your standard of living, then vote Republican.
Congressman?
Yeah, I tell you, Joe, I'm with you in the idea is the Republicans are for very clearly a certain small subsegment of the population. I mean, their tax bill, 83% of the money went to the top 1%. They lowered the rate for corporations. They've done everything they can to make it harder for people to have access to health care, and if you have a pre-existing condition, you could actually lose access to health care. They've done everything that seems counter, so you make a good point. I think right now what we're finding is, talking about health care and prescription drug prices, talking about good-paying jobs and investing in our infrastructure, and then talking just about the culture of corruption in Washington seems to be what resonates the best. And I think it definitely overlaps with what you're saying. But, some people see it in the aspect of health care. Some are seeing it in the aspect, as I talked to some union workers in Des Moines just yesterday, who are going to wind up with a tax increase because of the tax cut bill, because they've lost deductions on things that were part of their normal expenses, but they're not rich people. They weren't having anyone look out for them in the Republican caucus. So your point is well made.
Kevin in Olympia, Washington. You're on the air with Congressman Pocan.
Hi, this is Kevin. Am I on?
You're on the air, Kevin. We have 2 minutes to the end of the hour.
Sorry, we had some static there for just a moment. My question's about, by the way, I'm not a troll. I was discharged as a conscientious objector from the Air Force. No way I'm going to be taking that tack. But my question's about Kavnaugh, Senate rules. The Dems had to, or some of them had to ignore the rules in order to reveal some information, put them at risk for dismissal from Congress. At the same time, they took an oath to uphold the Constitution. So my question generally is about that conflict and for the congressman maybe resolving that and taking that risk, and is there any precedent? So that's all I want to ask.
Yeah, so I think, are you referring to Cory Booker releasing some documents and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I think these are unprecedented times, right? And, we watched the obstruction when Barack Obama had a full year left and they wouldn't pass his nominee, and we've watched that happen. In this case, if they're not going to give you the information you actually need to confirm someone for the rest of their life, I think Democrats are finally standing with a firmer spine, which I'm pretty glad about, and doing some things that maybe will raise some of these questions. But, clearly this is the most strange time, I think, in many of our lifetimes to watch what's happening in Washington. And I think it's, time Democrats fight back with a bare knuckle, and I think that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. And by the way, we have about 20 seconds to the end of the hour. What should we be looking for in this coming week here, Congressman?
So next week is going to be a very busy week in Washington with the Kavnaugh hearing, and the House is back in maybe for the last week. Make sure you're reaching out to your members of Congress and the Senate. This may be your last blast before the election. And in the House, I know at least people are in districts. Find your member of Congress where they're at in the public and make them answer some questions. This may be your last few weeks to do it.
Yeah, and the Republicans are in all probability going to be hiding out, right?
Oh, yeah, I think check some local country clubs. You might find them.
There you go, or the golf course. Congressman Pocan, thanks so much for being with us today.
Absolutely, Tom. Thank you.
Great talking with you. Middays with Mark here on the Thom Hartmann Program. His website, pocan.house.gov. You can tweet him at @RepMarkPocan. And great guy. Greg Pallas is up next. Stick around.